Strange Tales from a Chinese Studio, Story 48.
So we need to understand the canvas this story is painted on because, well, this canvas is soaked in actual history.
It's very grounded in real events.
Right. The story opens in the immediate aftermath of a real historical event known as the Yuki case.
Yes, the Yuki Rebellion.
And I really want to emphasize that the source material doesn't sugarcoat this at all. It tells us that people from two specific counties in Shandong Province, Qixia and Liang, were heavily implicated.
And because they were implicated, they were executed en masse.
Yeah. But before we get into the ghosts and all the supernatural stuff, we really have to talk about the history.
We have to set the stage, definitely.
So what exactly was the Yuki case, and why was the government's response so, apocalyptic?
To understand the Yuki Rebellion, you really have to understand the political paranoia of the era. This is the 17th century.
Right, during the transition from the Ming to the Qing dynasty.
Exactly. And the Qing dynasty was established by the Manchus, who were an ethnic minority ruling over a vast Han Chinese majority.
So they were probably pretty nervous about holding on to power.
Oh, incredibly insecure. Because they were numerical outsiders, the early Qing court was hypersensitive to any signs of Han resistance or rebellion.
And that's where Yuki comes in.
Right. The Yuki case, which happened in the early 1660s, was an uprising led by a man named Yuki in Shandong province.
And when the Qing military crushed it, they didn't just punish the soldiers who fought, did they?
No, not at all. They utilized a legal concept known as Zulian.
Zulian. Okay, what does that mean?
It essentially translates to guilt by association or collective punishment.
Oh, wow. So they went after everyone.
Everyone. If someone in your extended family, or sometimes even just someone in your village, was accused of treason, the state could exterminate your entire family line.
That is just brutal.
It was designed to create an atmosphere of absolute terror. The idea was that communities would police themselves out of fear.
Because if your neighbor rebels, you die too.
Exactly. So when the Yuki Rebellion was suppressed, the government rounded up thousands of people from Qixia and Liang counties.
Men, women, children, scholars, merchants, just everyone.
Yes. They dragged them all to the provincial capital of Jinan to be slaughtered.
Okay, let's unpack this because the imagery used in the source text to describe this is just visceral.
It's incredibly graphic.
It describes the execution ground, which was actually the local martial arts training field. I guess they needed a massive open space just to process the sheer volume of executions.
They needed industrial scale space for this, yeah.
And the text says, blood covered the ground, white bones propped up the sky.
White bones propped up the sky. I mean, it's a striking, almost hallucinatory phrase.
Yeah, it really paints a picture.
It suggests that the sheer volume of the unburied dead has actually altered the physical landscape. The architecture of the city has basically been replaced by death.
It's horrifying. It feels like the world building of a post-apocalyptic movie.
Right. It really does.
It's not just a haunted house. It's an entire ecosystem of death.
Yeah.
And that leads to the detail that just completely hooked me.
About the coffins.
Yes. The text mentions that higher-ranking officials, in this sort of twisted show of bureaucratic mercy, decided to donate coffins for the victims.
A tiny gesture of administration.
Right, but because the scale of the massacre was so vast, this act of charity literally drained the city of Jiunan's entire wood supply.
I think what's fascinating here is how this roots the supernatural firmly in cold, hard logistics.
Yeah, it's not spooky mist, it's supply chain collapse.
Exactly. This isn't abstract horror. This is municipal failure. Think about the economic and social mechanisms at play here.
Jiunan is a huge provincial capital, right?
It is a massive center of trade. So for a city like Jiunan to literally run out of lumber, the death toll has to be staggering.
And when the wood runs out, what happens to the bodies?
The dead, who the text refers to as the eastern ghosts, since they came from the eastern counties, end up having to be dumped into mass, unmarked graves.
Just tossed into pits in the southern suburbs of the city.
Yes, essentially discarded.
So if you were a victim, you weren't just robbed of your life, you were robbed of your identity.
Your proper burial rights, your place in the ancestral lineage, all gone.
Right, you were just an eastern ghost in a trench.
Precisely. And in classical Chinese culture, a proper burial isn't just a sign of respect. It is a cosmic necessity.
Because if you don't have it, you get stuck.
Exactly. Without a marked grave, without descendants to offer sacrifices, a soul becomes a wandering, hungry ghost.
Cut off from the spiritual economy.
Yes. So the trauma we are dealing with here isn't just physical death. It is the absolute annihilation of spiritual dignity.
Man, that is heavy. Okay, so we have this horrifying landscape of bones, this bureaucratic nightmare of a mass grave.
A completely ruined ecosystem.
Right, and into this wasteland walks our protagonist. The text introduces him simply as a scholar from Liang.
Let's just call him the Liang scholar.
Okay, the Liang scholar. And the source text is very specific about when he arrives. It says he arrives in the year Jane.
Yes, Jean.
Now, I know classical Chinese texts use a different calendar system, but why is it so important that the author stamps this story with that specific year?
It's actually a brilliant literary device. The year Jian refers to a specific year within the traditional Chinese sexagenary cycle.
Which is like a 60-year calendar cycle.
Exactly, used for reckoning time. In the context of the early Qing dynasty, Jian corresponds to the year 1674.
Okay, and the Yuki rebellion happened in 1661.
Right, so by specifying the year Jian, the author is telling the contemporary reader that this story is taking place about a decade after the massacre.
A decade later, wow.
The blood has dried, the bones have bleached, but the collective trauma is still an open wound.
It grounds what is about to be a ghost story in documented, verifiable, historical time.
It says to the reader, look, this isn't a fairy tale from 1,000 years ago. This is your immediate, recent history.
That makes perfect sense. So it's 1674. The Liang scholar is visiting the region, which encompasses Jinan, because he actually had like 2 or 3 relatives and friends who were caught up in that massive purge a decade earlier.
He's a survivor.
Right. He's walking through the literal graveyard of his community, and he isn't there as some kind of occult investigator.
No, he is there to perform his deeply ingrained cultural duties of mourning.
He is engaging in Zuiyuan, right?
Yes, the act of remembering and honoring the dead.
And to do this, he buys paper money and pours libations in the ruined, overgrown wilderness of the southern suburbs where the mass graves are.
Amidst all those unmarked pits.
Now, I want to pause on the paper money thing, because I've always seen this in movies or read about it, but I really want to understand the actual mechanics of it.
The logic behind burning it, you mean?
Yeah. He's burning fake money. Why is that considered a vital duty?
It's a crucial concept to grasp if we're going to understand the underlying logic of this story's universe.
Okay, walk me through it.
In traditional Chinese cosmology, the afterlife is highly bureaucratic. It mirrors the imperial government of the living world.
So there are officials, red tape, all of that.
Exactly. There are magistrates of hell, there are guards, there are taxes, and you need capital to survive there, just as you do in the mortal realm.
So it's not just a gesture.
No, burning paper money, or joss paper, is not merely a symbolic gesture of grief. It is viewed as a literal financial transaction.
Wow.
It's almost like burning paper is the spiritual equivalent of a wire transfer across the border of mortality.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
The living are literally funding the ghost economy. The fire is the medium of exchange that converts the physical paper into spiritual currency.
So when he's out there burning this money among the overgrown weeds and, unidentifiable mounds of dirt, he is trying to send financial aid to his missing friends.
He is. It's an act of desperate care.
He is trying to bridge the gap that the state violence created. So he finishes his rituals, sets up camp, and he rents a room at a tax collection house run by a monk in the lower courtyard.
Just going about his mundane business.
Right. He goes into the city during the day to run his errands, but it's when he comes back at dusk that the narrative takes its first really sharp, unexpected turn.
This is where things get really interesting.
Yeah, let's get into this, because this encounter completely threw me off. He comes back to his rented room, the light is fading, and he finds a young man just lounging on his bed.
Making himself entirely at home.
Seriously. But it's not just that he's on the bed. This intruder is wearing the scholar's own hat and shoes.
Which is incredibly presumptuous.
Right. And the scholar's servant is standing there totally baffled, asking this guy who he is, and the intruder's just lying back, eyes closed, completely ignoring the servant.
It's a remarkably mundane, almost comedic intrusion.
Oh, I'm struggling with this. I mean, we just established this grim, blood-soaked historical backdrop. Mass graves, hungry ghosts.
Very serious trauma.
And then the first ghost we meet acts like an annoying college roommate who just crashed on your futon. Where are the rattling chains? Where is the moaning?
That dissonance is exactly the point the author is trying to make.
Really?
Yeah. When the scholar steps up in the dim light and confronts him, the young man opens his eyes and actually complains.
What does he say?
He says, "I'm waiting for your master, and the servant is interrogating me, babbling on and on. Am I a violent intruder?"
That is hilarious.
It is. The author is subverting every traditional trope of the ghost genre to make a profound philosophical statement about the nature of the soul.
Okay, let's unpack this. What is that statement?
Well, the young man is Zhu. He's a fellow townsman and old friend of the scholar who was executed in the Purge 10 years ago.
Okay, so he's definitively a victim of the massacre.
Exactly. But look at his behavior. Death hasn't fundamentally changed his personality.
He's still just Zhu?
Right. He still complains about annoying servants. He still acts with the casual, slightly irritating entitlement of a friend crashing at your place.
He borrows the hat and shoes because, hey, we're friends?
Exactly. The author is suggesting that state violence can destroy the body, it can dump you in a mass grave, but it cannot destroy who you essentially are.
Oh, wow.
The normalization of the afterlife in this scene is a form of resistance against the dehumanization of the massacre.
That actually makes it so much more poignant. So when the scholar realizes it's Zhu, who, again, he knows for a fact was executed 10 years ago, he naturally freaks out.
Understandably so.
I would too. The text says he tries to run away. But Zhu literally reaches out, grabs his clothes, and pulls him back.
He physically stops him.
Yeah, and Zhu's argument to get him to stay is basically just this massive guilt trip.
It is entirely based on social obligation. Zhu says, we had a literary friendship. Why are you showing so little feeling?
But how dare you run away from me?
Right. He says, I might be a ghost now, but I haven't forgotten our old ties. I have a favor to ask. Please don't treat me poorly just because I'm a different kind of being now.
A different kind of being. That phrasing is so interesting.
It's a plea for continuity. Zhu is arguing that their shared history, their intellectual friendship, completely supersedes the biological boundary of life and death.
He's saying the state killed me, but don't you dare act like we aren't still friends.
Exactly. The trauma of the mass execution stripped away their physical lives, but Zhu is vehemently demanding that it not strip away their social bonds.
He expects the etiquette to still apply.
The etiquette, the loyalty, the favors of the living, he expects all of it to apply to the dead.
And it works. The scholar's probably still terrified, but he's sufficiently guilted into it, so he sits down and asks Zhu what he wants.
He accepts the social obligation.
Right. And this brings us to the actual favor. Zhu doesn't want vengeance against the king officials. He doesn't even want a proper burial for himself.
He has a very specific, incredibly traditional administrative favor to ask.
Yeah, he wants the scholar to act as a matchmaker.
A ghost matchmaker. This is where the narrative actively bridges the two worlds, forcing the living to participate in the bureaucracy of the dead.
Zhu explains that he has a niece who is widowed and alone in the afterlife. He wants to find her a new husband to manage the household.
Which is a very typical, proper thing for an uncle to do.
Right. He tells the scholar that he's tried to arrange it himself, but the niece keeps refusing. Her excuse is that she has no senior elders to officially sanction a marriage.
Because Zhu is technically her uncle, but maybe not senior enough in the hierarchy.
Yeah, so Zhu needs the scholar, who was a prominent elder figure to her when she was alive, to come to the ghost realm and give his official blessing.
He needs the patriarchal rubber stamp.
But I have to ask, why is she so hung up on the rules? She's dead. She's in a mass grave. Why does a ghost need an elder to approve her marriage?
Because in the Confucian worldview, your identity is entirely defined by your relationships and your place in the social hierarchy.
Even after you die.
Especially after you die. A woman in traditional Chinese society was bound by the 3 obediences.
What are those?
Obedience to her father before marriage, to her husband during marriage, and to her eldest son in widowhood.
So she doesn't exist as a completely independent legal entity.
No, she doesn't. And even in death, the niece feels paralyzed by these norms. Without a senior male family member to act as the patriarch and approve the marriage, she feels any union would be illegitimate.
She refuses to act outside the proper hierarchical structure.
Exactly. Even when that structure has been physically obliterated by the state, she holds on to it.
It's incredible to me that the bureaucracy of life extends so rigidly into death. So the scholar agrees, and he is dragged into a literal ghost town to fulfill this administrative duty.
He crosses over, in a sense.
Yeah, Zhu leads him about a mile north into the desolate wilderness, and suddenly they arrive at a large village. The text says it's a village of nearly 100 families.
A huge settlement for ghosts.
And this place has a specific name, Lake Siali.
Let's break down the etymology of that name, Lake Sealy. It is a portmanteau.
A portmanteau of what?
It is created by combining the names of the two counties that suffered the absolute worst of the Yuki executions, Liang and Qixia.
Oh, wow. And Li means village.
Yes, Li simply means a village or neighborhood.
So, the ghost world has its own refugee camps, and they are explicitly named after the victims' destroyed hometowns.
It's devastating, isn't it?
That is so darkly bureaucratic. It's like 100 families of executed people just picked up and painstakingly recreated their destroyed neighborhood in the afterlife.
It tells us something profound about the human need for community.
Yeah, they couldn't just scatter.
No, that need for belonging clearly outlacks the biological body. These souls were violently ripped from their homes. They were thrown into mass trenches without proper rites. The city was drained of coffin wood.
Complete erasure.
Right. So in the spiritual realm, what do? They do the only thing humans know how to do when faced with chaos.
They organize.
They build a replica of the socio-political structures they knew. Lake Sealy is a monument to collective trauma, absolutely, but it's also a monument to resilience.
They refuse to be just wandering, scattered, hungry souls.
Exactly. They assert their humanity by forming a community.
That makes the next scene so heartbreaking. It's in this ghostly refugee camp that the scholar finally meets his niece.
This reunion is very heavy.
Yeah, Zhu knocks on a door. An old woman named Mother Yang answers, and the scholar is led into a small, half-acre ruined courtyard with a two-room thatched cottage.
Very humble surroundings.
Inside, the light is dim, and there is his niece. The text notes she looks just as she did in life, clean and elegant, but the moment she sees him, she just bursts into tears.
The emotional weight of this reunion is incredibly heavy. We learn from the source text that the scholar is actually the one who raised her.
Oh, he raised her.
Yes. She was orphaned early, he took her in, brought her up, and she only left his household to marry into her husband's family at age 15.
So he was her surrogate father.
He was.
And her death wasn't even from the executioner's blade. The text reveals that when the government forces swept through, she was captured and brought to Jiuniang as a prisoner.
She was collateral damage.
While there, she heard the news that her actual father had been executed in the purge. And upon hearing that, she literally died of shock and grief.
I want to contextualize why she would die of shock, because it wasn't just sadness. It was pure, unadulterated terror.
Terror of what would happen to her.
Yes. We talked earlier about Zulian collective punishment.
Right.
Under King law, when a male relative was executed for treason, the female relatives weren't usually killed.
What happened to them?
Instead, they were confiscated by the state and sent to the capital as slaves. They were often distributed among the Manchu military banners.
Oh my God.
The sexual violence, the degradation, the absolute loss of autonomy that awaited her was a fate considered worse than death.
So she knew it was coming.
She knew instantly what her impending doom was. The trauma literally stopped her heart.
It highlights the horrific collateral damage of state violence. The trauma rippled out and killed even those who weren't directly targeted for execution.
It infected everything.
But when she is weeping to her uncle, her grief isn't just about the fact that she died. Her deepest pain is about being left behind by the living.
The abandonment.
Right. She cries because she feels she never got to repay the uncle for raising her. But then she gets to the real heartbreak.
What does she tell him?
She tells him, "Last year, my cousin came to the mass graves and moved my father's coffin back home. But he completely forgot about me."
He took the father and left the daughter?
Exactly. She says, "He didn't spare me a single thought. I was left here, hundreds of miles away from home, lonely as an autumn swallow."
Lonely as an autumn swallow. In classical Chinese poetry, the swallow is a migratory bird that returns to its nest every spring.
So to be an autumn swallow.
To be an autumn swallow is to be out of season. It means being left behind when the flock has migrated south, facing the freezing winter entirely alone.
Oh, that is a devastating poetic image of isolation.
Her tragedy is compounded by abandonment. She isn't just trapped in a grim ghost town. She feels utterly forgotten by the very family members who are supposed to care for her.
Because the cousin performed the filial duty of retrieving the father's bones, but he completely ignored the young woman.
It speaks to the gendered hierarchy of mourning. The patriarch is saved, the female relative is left to rot.
But then, amidst all this sorrow, she says something that really caught my eye and ties back to what we discussed earlier.
About the rituals.
Yes. She thanks her uncle. She says, "You didn't think my sunken soul was worth abandoning. You gave me gold and silk, and I have received it."
She's talking about the paper money.
She's talking about the paper money he burned earlier in the day.
Exactly. This proves the mechanics of that spiritual wire transfer we discussed.
It actually worked.
It did. The actions of the living have a direct, tangible economic impact in the afterlife. The paper money the scholar burned in those overgrown ruins successfully transferred into the ghost economy of Lexia Lee.
It gave her actual wealth.
It proves that rituals of mourning are not just symbolic gestures to make the living feel better. In this universe, they are a literal lifeline to the dead.
His act of remembering her actually enriched her existence.
It did.
So if we look at where we are in the story, we have this incredibly mournful, heavy atmosphere. A dark refugee camp of traumatized souls.
A niece crying over being abandoned by her family.
Right, the lingering horror of the executions. The tone is somber, it is heavy. But then, and here's where it gets really crazy, the story introduces a spark of light that just completely flips the script.
The tone shifts dramatically here.
You'd think a ghost community built on shared trauma would be entirely defined by mourning. But human nature, even in the afterlife, craves joy. Which leads us to a bizarre tonal shift.
This is where the narrative pivots and introduces the title character.
Right. Enter Gongsun Jiuniang. The niece is talking. She mentions that she has a close friend, and suddenly this 17 or 18-year-old girl comes rushing in through the door.
She bursts into the room.
Followed by a maid. And when she sees the scholar, strange man sitting in the room, she immediately turns to run away.
Very proper.
But the niece grabs her skirt, laughs, and says, "Don't run, this is my uncle."
We get our first description of Jiuniang here, and it is loaded with cultural coding.
Explain this to me. She is from Kitsia, from the Gongsun family, but the niece describes her background using a very specific, highly unusual slang term from the source text.
She calls Jiuniang a poor Persian, or in the original Chinese, Queng Bosi.
Okay, poor Persian. That is such a bizarre phrase to encounter in a 17th century Chinese ghost story. I'm looking at this, and I just have to ask, what does that even mean?
It's strange, right?
Why call a Chinese girl from Shandong province a Persian?
It's a fascinating linguistic artifact. To understand this, we have to look back at the cultural memory of the Silk Road.
Oh, okay.
During the Tang Dynasty, hundreds of years earlier, Persian merchants Bosi were a common sight in cosmopolitan Chinese cities.
They traded there a lot.
Yes. They dealt in exotic spices, jewels, and luxury goods. Over the centuries, even after the direct trade route shifted, the term Persian became firmly lodged in the Chinese cultural consciousness.
As a symbol of what?
As the archetypal symbol of immense, unfathomable wealth and exotic treasures.
Oh, I see.
So to call someone a poor Persian was a highly ironic colloquial slang term. It was used to describe someone who comes from a once great, incredibly wealthy aristocratic family that has now fallen into absolute crushing destitution.
Oh, that is brilliant. So by calling her a poor Persian, the niece is immediately communicating an entire backstory.
A complete character summary in 2 words.
Jiuniang was born to high status. She was raised in extreme luxury and privilege. But the historical trauma of the Yuki case has stripped her of everything.
Her wealth is gone, her family is dead.
And all she has left is her aristocratic breeding.
And you can see that breeding in how she is described. The text says when she looks at the scholar, she smiles like a crescent autumn moon, and her blush is like the dawn clouds.
The scholar is immediately struck by her, right?
Oh, he is captivated. He thinks she is truly a heavenly person. He even remarks to his niece, you can tell she's from a great family. How could someone in this tiny, ruined snail shell of a house be so beautiful?
She represents beauty amidst ruin. She is the embodiment of fallen grace.
Yes, perfectly stated.
Wait, I'm struggling with this. Here's where it gets really interesting. She's a ghost from a 17th century mass grave, a victim of state-sponsored slaughter.
Yes, a victim of a massacre.
But she's blushing and smiling like she's the lead in a modern rom-com. Isn't that deeply jarring for the reader? We go from the terror of collective punishment straight into a matchmaking setup.
It is incredibly jarring, and that is exactly the author's intent. The banter that follows is quick, witty, and deeply human.
It totally is. The niece, instantly sensing that her uncle is smitten with this girl, immediately starts playing matchmaker.
Setting them up.
She tells him, oh, she's a scholar too. Her poetry is amazing. And Jiuniang blushes, smiles, and says, this little maid is ruining my reputation for no reason, making you laugh at me.
The niece pushes the envelope further, using classical literary metaphors.
What did she say?
She points out that the uncle is a widower. She says to Jiuniang, my uncle's broken string hasn't been reconnected. Would a little lady like you be able to bring him some joy?
A broken string. I've actually heard that phrase used for widowers in Chinese dramas. Why is a spouse compared to a string?
The metaphor comes from the guqun, the classical Chinese lute.
The stringed instrument.
Right. In traditional literature, a harmonious marriage is often compared to a perfectly tuned instrument. The husband and wife are the strings, vibrating in resonance with one another.
Oh, that's beautiful.
When a spouse dies, the string is broken and the harmony is destroyed. A widower is left playing an incomplete instrument.
But you can restring a lute.
Exactly. But crucially, a lute can be restrung. The niece is asking if Jiuniang would be willing to be the new string that restores the harmony of his life.
It's such an elegant way to proposition someone.
Yeah.
And Jiuniang's reaction is fantastic.
She gets very flustered.
Totally flustered and laughing, she runs out of the room, calling the niece crazy. It's literally just a group of girlfriends playfully trying to set up a sudden eligible bachelor.
Very recognizable human behavior.
It feels so modern. But why? Why does the author give us this bright, sparkling, witty dialogue in the middle of a refugee camp for the executed?
Because it is the ultimate refutation of their victimhood. The author is demanding that we see them not as statistics of a massacre, but as fiercely, undeniably human beings.
They aren't just corpses in a pit.
No, they are young women who giggle, who feel embarrassment, who write poetry, and who desire romantic connection.
It makes them real.
By making them so vibrant, the author ensures that the underlying tragedy hits us so much harder. You aren't mourning an abstract historical casualty anymore. You are mourning the specific, vibrant life that was extinguished.
And it works on the scholar, too. He is completely hooked.
He's all in.
The niece tells him that if he doesn't think ghosts are too dirty or beneath him, she will personally go ask Jiuning's mother for her hand in marriage on his behalf.
She acts as the official matchmaker.
And the scholar is thrilled. And the ghosts move incredibly fast. Within 5 days, everything is set for a wedding.
The velocity of the romance makes sense in the context of the afterlife. Time and opportunity are scarce for the dead.
They don't have time to waste.
Exactly. They seize what joy they can the moment it appears.
So 5 days later, Zhu, the ghost buddy who started all of this, shows up at the scholar's inn again.
Ready for the ceremony.
This time, he's dressed nicely, waving a fan, looking very pleased with himself. He acts as the official escort and leads the scholar back to the ghost village of Li for the wedding.
They go to a larger, more respectable house for this.
Right. There's a full wedding banquet prepared. Jiuniang's elderly mother is brought out by 2 maids. The mother apologizes, saying she's too old and doddering to perform the full formal greetings, but she warmly welcomes him.
So they go through all the traditional motions.
They have a feast, just like in the human world, though the text notes that the ghost hosts don't actually eat the physical food they serve the living guest. They just inhale its essence.
The meticulous recreation of a human wedding ceremony is vital here.
Why is it so important?
By insisting on the banquet, the formal greetings, the proper chaperones, they are reclaiming the social dignity that the executioner's blades stole from them.
They're asserting their civilization.
Exactly. They are asserting their right to civilization.
It's a beautiful moment of triumph. But then the banquet ends. The guests leave. The scholar is led into the bridal chamber.
The climax of the romantic arc.
Junie is waiting there, surrounded by beautiful candles, looking stunning. They have this moment of deep romantic connection.
The culmination of the rom-com.
Yes. And then the bottom completely falls out of the story. The romance shatters instantly.
This is the narrative ambush.
It really is.
It's the Trojan horse the author built.
Right in the middle of the bridal chamber,
Right.
supposedly the happiest moment of her afterlife, Jiuniang suddenly starts weeping uncontrollably.
This completely breaks down.
And she begins to recount the true horrific story of how she died. It's not a peaceful passing.
Far from it.
She tells him that during the purge, her wealthy family was arrested and sent under heavy guard to the capital.
The grueling march north.
On the brutal journey, the harsh conditions were too much, and her elderly mother died of the hardship on the road. And Jiuniang, facing the unbearable reality of what awaited her in the capital.
This slavery, the degradation we talked about earlier.
Right. Knowing that was coming, she took a knife and slit her own throat.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, I think we really have to sit with the weight of this scene.
It's incredibly heavy.
The author lured the reader in with a charming romance, only to lock the door and force them to listen to raw historical testimony.
We're trapped with the truth now.
Yes. Jiuniang's suicide is presented not as a moment of weakness or sin, but as a desperate, incredibly violent act to maintain her bodily autonomy.
It was her only choice.
It was her only way to assert control over her own destiny against a state that viewed her as disposable property.
It is extreme tonal whiplash. We went straight from a charming, almost funny wedding banquet into a gritty, traumatizing true crime confession.
And she does it with poetry.
She does. She doesn't just tell him the facts.
Yeah.
She recites poetry. She wrote about it. She is a scholar, after all.
The source text gives us 2 devastating poems she shares with him in the bridal chamber.
The first one says, 10 years, the cold dew and the maple forest moon. This night we first meet in the spring of the painted chamber.
Let's analyze the imagery there. She contrasts the long, cold isolation of death, the cold dew and the desolate maple forest moon, which represent the bleak reality of the mass grave, with the sudden, almost jarring warmth of the wedding night.
The spring of the painted chamber.
Exactly. She is mourning the 10 years of youth and life she lost. The juxtaposition is heartbreaking.
But the second poem is the one that really haunts me because it brings the physical reality of the massacre directly into the bedroom.
It shatters the illusion.
She says, the wind and rain and the white poplars surround the lonely grave. Who would have thought on the sunlit terrace clouds would form again? Suddenly opening the golden grave box to look. Blood still stains the old silk skirt.
Blood still stains the old silk skirt. This is the psychological crux of her trauma.
It's still there.
It is the ultimate intrusion of PTSD into a safe space. Even in this moment of new love, this magical bridal chamber surrounded by candles, she cannot escape the visceral memory of her violent end.
The blood is a literal stain on the memory.
The trauma is ever present. The physical reality of the executions shatters the fantasy of the ghost romance. She cannot simply be a happy bride. She is a victim with a slit throat.
And as she's crying, the sun starts to come up. Night is ending. She tells him he has to leave before his servants at the inn wake up and get suspicious about where he's been.
But before he leaves, she has a request.
Yes, she makes her ultimate plea. She drops all the banter, all the poetry, and just begs him.
What does she ask?
She says, I am a fragile soul wandering thousands of miles with no place to rest. My mother and I are isolated and alone here.
Just completely vulnerable.
It breaks my heart even to speak of it. But if you remember the love of this one night, please gather my bones. Take them and bury them near your family's graveyard.
The ultimate favor.
Let me have a place to rely on for the next 100 years so that even in death, I won't decay into nothingness.
This is the ultimate act of vulnerability. Remember what we discussed about hungry ghosts? She isn't just asking for a nicer grave.
She wants to be taken home.
She is asking for integration into his family line. By asking to be buried in his ancestral graveyard, she is asking to be formally recognized as his wife in the spiritual realm.
So she'll get the sacrifices?
Ensuring she will receive sacrifices and remembrance for generations. She is asking to be saved from the anonymity of the mass grave, from being a forgotten poor Persian in Lexiali.
She is trusting him with her physical remains.
She is trusting him with the most sacred, powerful thing a spirit has.
The scholar is deeply moved. He immediately promises to do it. He swears he will save her from this limbo and bring her bones home.
He commits to the task.
And to seal the promise, as they are tearfully saying goodbye at the door, she gives him a physical token of their union. She gives him a pair of her own silk socks.
The silk socks function as a tangible anchor.
Like a physical bridge between them.
Exactly. In folklore, a physical object crossing the boundary from the dead to the living is incredibly rare.
It doesn't happen often.
No. Silk, specifically, is intimate, fragile, and closely associated with the body. It represents the delicate trust she has placed in him.
So he leaves the village feeling incredibly sad but resolute. He even stops by Zhu and his niece's house on the way out to say goodbye, and everyone is crying.
It's a very emotional departure.
He goes back to his inn, goes to sleep, and wakes up the next day ready to fulfill his promise. He is going to be the hero.
But then,
As the day goes on, he realizes he has made a horrific, fatal mistake.
a catastrophic mistake of omission.
He forgot to ask her for the exact location of her grave.
Now, in a modern context, this might seem like a small oversight.
Right, if you forget an address, you just pull out your phone, text them, or look it up on a map.
Exactly. But in this landscape, in the context of the Yuki massacre, this oversight is catastrophic.
It's worse than losing a phone number before the internet. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. But the haystack is a literal mass grave containing thousands of executed prisoners.
He has no way to find her among the thousands.
He panics. He realizes the magnitude of his error. So he waits until nightfall and rushes back out to the southern suburbs to find the village of Laxieli again, so he can just ask her where she's buried.
But the village was an illusion.
What do you mean?
It was a temporary manifestation of their collective spirit, sustained only by their willpower and the liminality of the moment.
Because when he gets there, Laxieli is entirely gone.
Vanished.
There are no houses. There are no thatched cottages. There's no bustling refugee camp. It is just a terrifying, endless wasteland.
The reality of the execution ground.
The text describes it as thousands of accumulated, indistinguishable graves stretching out into the thorny wilderness. And the only sound is the wailing of ghost fires in the dark.
Let's talk about those wailing ghost fires.
Yeah, what exactly are those?
Scientifically, what people were likely seeing in these mass graves was the spontaneous combustion of phosphine gas released by decomposing bodies.
Oh, like swamp gas.
Swamp gas, or will-o'-the-wisp. But psychologically, to a person in the 17th century walking through an execution ground, these are the literal glowing souls of the violently murdered.
Just trapped in the physical world, wailing in agony.
Yes. The romantic illusion has been violently stripped away, and the scholar is finally confronted with the raw, unfiltered, sensory reality of the massacre.
He can't hide from it anymore.
The sheer volume of the dead overwhelms him.
He wanders around in the dark, completely lost. He can't tell one mound of dirt from the other. The ghost fires are crying out all around him, illuminating the weeds, and the text explicitly says it terrifies his mind and eyes.
He breaks under the pressure.
And this is the turning point of his character. He loses his nerve. The fear overrides his devotion. He gets so scared of the dead that he turns around and flees back to the safety of his inn.
Here, the author explores the profound theme of human fallibility and the limits of empathy.
Because he did mean well, right?
The scholar had good intentions. He genuinely loved Jiuniang. He genuinely wanted to save her. But intentions mean absolutely nothing if the execution fails.
When faced with the horrifying, messy, terrifying reality of someone else's trauma, his courage breaks.
He is a scholar, not a hero. He retreats to the comfort of the living world because the burden of the dead is simply too heavy.
And the universe immediately punishes him for it. When he gets back to his room, still shaking from the fear, he takes out the token she gave him. The silk socks.
The symbol of her trust.
But as he opens his hands to look at them, the wind catches the fabric. And right before his eyes, the silk rapidly disintegrates.
He just turns to ash.
It turns into dust and ashes, completely destroyed, scattering in the breeze.
The mechanism of that disintegration is deeply symbolic. The socks represented the fragile trust between the living and the dead.
And he broke it.
Because he failed the test of commitment, because he let his fear stop him from searching for her bones, the trust is broken. And because the spiritual contract is voided, the physical object crumbles.
It is the universe rejecting him.
Exactly.
Seeing the socks turn to ash, he is crushed. But he also just gives up. He packs his bags, leaves Jinan, and returns to the east, back to his normal, comfortable life.
But the guilt doesn't leave him. You can't just walk away from an unfulfilled vow to the dead.
No, it festers. Half a year passes. 6 months of waking up every day knowing he left his ghost bride rotting in an unmarked mass grave because he forgot to ask one simple question and then got too scared in the dark to fix it.
It just eats away at him.
The guilt eats away at him until he can't stand it anymore. So he travels all the way back to Jinan. He goes out to the southern suburbs, back to the mass graves.
He is seeking redemption, a second chance to do the right thing.
He arrives in the late afternoon. The sun is still up. He's not taking any chances with the dark this time. And as he's walking through the desolate wilderness, looking at the thousands of mounds, he looks up.
And what does he see?
In the distance, standing alone on top of a tomb, he sees a woman. And her expression, her charm, her posture, it is unmistakably Jiuniang.
The narrative grants him one final encounter, one last chance to bridge the gap and explain himself.
He is overjoyed. He whips his horse forward and rushes up to the tomb. He jumps down, ready to apologize, ready to finally dig up her bones and take her home. But
he turns away.
She turns and walks away. She completely ignores him, treating him like a total stranger, pretending she doesn't know him at all.
It is the ultimate rejection.
He doesn't give up, though. He pushes closer. He tries to get in front of her to force her to look at him. But as he gets near, her face changes.
She's not the gentle bride anymore.
The gentle girl from the bridal chamber is gone. She looks incredibly angry. She raises her sleeve to cover her face, refusing to even let him see her eyes.
Shutting him out completely.
He cries out her name, Jiuniang. And the absolute moment he speaks her name, she vanishes into a puff of smoke, gone forever, leaving him completely alone in the graveyard.
It is a chilling, devastating conclusion to their romance. There is no forgiveness.
I have to be honest, when I first read this ending, I felt a deep, profound sense of frustration.
You felt it was unfair?
It feels so incredibly unfair. He didn't abandon her maliciously. He didn't set out to betray her or break his promise.
No, he did.
He just made a dumb, totally human mistake. He forgot the address, and then he got scared of a literal field of wailing phosphorus ghost fires. Why is she so unforgiving? Why won't she even listen to his apology?
This raises an important question about perspective, which the author, writing under his pen name, the historian of the strange, explicitly addresses in his final philosophical commentary at the end of the text.
Okay, what does he say?
From the scholar's perspective, yes, it was just a mistake of omission born of momentary cowardice. But from Jiuniang's perspective, her anger is not just justified. It is the only rational response.
Explain that to me. Walk me through her logic.
Think about what she gave him in that bridal chamber.
She gave him her trauma.
She relived her suicide for him. She showed him the bloody skirt. She made herself entirely vulnerable, and she asked him for the one thing that could save her from eternal isolation in a mass grave of executed prisoners.
Her bones.
And what did he do? He left, and he never came back. For 6 months.
Oh, man.
From her point of view, he took her love, promised her salvation, and then abandoned her bones to rot in the mud simply because it was too inconvenient or too scary to look for them. Why should she forgive that?
Oh. Wow. When you put it like that, his intentions don't matter at all.
Yeah.
The result is the same as if he hated her.
Exactly. And the author, the historian of the strange, makes a brilliant historical comparison here.
Who does he compare her to?
He compares Jiuniang to loyal ministers of state or deeply filial sons from history who die completely misunderstood by their lords or their fathers.
Because their actions were misinterpreted.
Yes. Throughout Chinese history, there are endless stories of good men who are judged by circumstances they couldn't control or whose actions were misinterpreted, leading to their execution or disgrace.
The author's final lament in the source text is one of the most heartbreaking things I've read. He says, "The ultimate tragedy is that the scholar cannot rip open his own chest and show her his internal organs.
He cannot prove his heart.
He can't physically cut out his heart to prove to her that his intentions were pure."
And that is the profound loneliness at the very center of this story. It's the tragedy that we can never, ever truly prove our inner intentions to another person.
We're trapped inside ourselves.
Our inner world, our guilt, our pure motives, our internal apologies, they are entirely invisible. To the world, and especially to the people we love, we are only the sum of our actions.
And he failed to act.
He let fear win, and therefore to her, he is a betrayer. The inability to communicate our true heart and being condemned for the failure of our actions is the real horror story here.
The ghosts are scary, sure, but the limitations of human empathy are terrifying. Trauma and memory require more than just good intentions or a sympathetic ear.
They require action.
They require us to be brave enough to walk through the wailing ghost fires, face the terrifying reality of another person's pain, and actually do the work.
You have to follow through.